The crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the packed restaurant, and I could hear the buzz of conversation even before I stepped through the door. Morton's Steakhouse in downtown Seattle. My daughter Sarah had insisted I come to her boyfriend's company holiday party. "Dad, please," she'd said over the phone 3 days ago. "Trevor really wants you there. It's important to him." I should have known something was off. Sarah hadn't invited me to anything involving Trevor in the 6 months they'd been dating. But a father hopes, doesn't he? I'd driven 2 hours from my cabin in the Cascades, showered at a rest stop, and put on my cleanest flannel shirt and jeans. Nothing fancy, but I was clean and presentable. Sarah stood near the bar in a black cocktail dress I'd never seen before. Designer, probably. She spotted me and waved, but her smile seemed tight, nervous. Trevor appeared beside her, all teeth and cologne in a navy suit that probably cost more than my truck. "Dad," Sarah kissed my cheek. "You made it. Wouldn't miss it, honey." I smiled at Trevor and extended my hand. "Good to see you, son." Trevor's handshake was limp, barely there. His eyes swept over my flannel shirt, my worn Levi's, my scuffed work boots. Something flickered across his face. Not quite disgust. Calculation? Maybe. "Marcus, glad you could make it." He turned to scan the room, and I saw his boss approaching. Gregory Hamilton, CEO of Hamilton Technologies. I recognized him from the pitch deck Sarah had accidentally left at my place last month, the one I'd studied carefully before making my decision. "Greg!" Trevor's voice jumped an octave. "Come meet someone." Gregory Hamilton was 55, silver-haired, with the confident stride of a man used to being the smartest person in any room. He approached with an extended hand, clearly expecting a business introduction. "Greg, this is Marcus Chen," Trevor said, and I heard Sarah's sharp intake of breath beside me. "He's, my girlfriend's homeless uncle. We're trying to help him get back on his feet. You know, community service and all that." The words hung in the air like poison gas. Around us, conversation stuttered and stopped. A woman in a red dress actually took a step backward, clutching her purse closer. Gregory Hamilton's extended hand froze midair, then slowly lowered. "Oh," Gregory said, his tone shifting from professional to patronizing in one syllable. "Well, that's very charitable of you, Trevor." I looked at Sarah. She was staring at the floor, her face flushed, not with anger at Trevor's words, with embarrassment at me. Something cold settled in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Just a profound sadness that my own daughter would stand there, silent, while this boy humiliated me in front of a room full of strangers. "I see," I said quietly. I met Gregory's eyes. He looked away first. Trevor was already steering his boss away, talking too loud, too fast. "So about that Q4 projection meeting, Greg, I've got some numbers that are going to blow your mind. Our user acquisition is through the roof." I stood alone in the middle of the restaurant. The conversations had resumed, but softer now, with glances in my direction. Pity, disgust. The uncomfortable shuffle of people deciding whether to acknowledge the homeless man at a corporate holiday party. Sarah finally looked up at me. "Dad, I'm sorry. Trevor's just Trevor. He's under a lot of pressure at work." "That's his excuse for lying about who I am? You don't understand. These people, they're..." She gestured helplessly at the room. "Trevor's trying to build something here. His reputation matters. And mine doesn't?" She didn't answer. That silence told me everything I needed to know. A server appeared at my elbow, young, uncomfortable. "Sir, Mr. Hamilton has arranged for you to sit at the bar. He thought you'd be more comfortable there. Away from the main tables. Away from the important people." I almost smiled at the transparent cruelty of it. "That's thoughtful of him," I said. The sarcasm was lost on the kid. I made my way to the bar, feeling eyes tracking me. The bartender, a woman in her 30s with kind eyes, gave me a sympathetic smile. "What can I get you?" "Water's fine." "Water at Morton's? You sure you don't want something stronger after that introduction?" So she'd heard. Of course she had. The whole damn restaurant had heard. "Just water, thanks." She poured me a glass of ice water with lemon and leaned against the bar. "For what it's worth, that guy's a tool. Trevor, I mean. He comes in here twice a week, runs up a $300 tab, and tips 5%. I took a sip of water and watched the party unfold. Trevor held court at a center table, surrounded by colleagues and sycophants. Sarah sat beside him, laughing at his jokes, her hand on his arm. From across the room, she looked happy, successful, everything a father could want for his daughter. Except she'd just chosen him over me without a second thought. The party moved to dinner. I remained at the bar, nursing my water, watching. Trevor made a show of ordering the most expensive items on the menu for his table. Wagyu ribeye, lobster tails, bottles of wine I recognized from investment meetings, Chateauneuf du Pape, at $400 a bottle. After the salad course, Trevor stood, wine glass in hand. The room quieted. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight," he began. His voice carried that particular frequency of self-satisfaction I'd learned to recognize in young entrepreneurs. Not confidence, entitlement. This year has been incredible for NovaTrack Solutions. We've grown from 12 employees to 57. Our user base has exploded from 10,000 to 500,000. And just last week, he paused for effect, letting anticipation build. Just last week, we closed our Series B funding round. $15 million, led by Summit Ventures, one of the most prestigious venture capital firms in the Pacific Northwest. Applause erupted. Genuine surprise on some faces, knowing nods from others. Gregory Hamilton raised his glass in salute. My hand tightened on my water glass. Interesting. Trevor wasn't done. This funding is going to take us to the next level. We're projecting 200% growth next quarter, 300% by end of next year. NovaTrack is going to revolutionize project management software, and everyone in this room is part of that revolution. More applause. Sarah beamed up at him, pride radiating from her face. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. Scrolled back 3 days to the message from my CFO, Jennifer Kwan. Subject line, NovaTrack Solutions Due Diligence. Final numbers. The email confirmed what I already knew. Summit Ventures had committed to leading NovaTrack's Series B, but not for $15 million, for $8 million. And that commitment was conditional on final due diligence, scheduled for next Tuesday. Trevor had just announced a deal that hadn't closed yet, inflating the numbers by nearly double. I slipped my phone back into my pocket and continued watching. Trevor made his way through the tables after his speech, accepting congratulations, shaking hands. He moved with the swagger of someone who believed his own fiction. When he reached the bar, probably for another overpriced scotch, he barely glanced at me. "How's the water, Marcus?" His tone was mocking, intimate, like we were sharing a joke. "I told the staff to keep an eye on you. Make sure you don't, wander off or anything. Thoughtful of you. Sarah says you live in some cabin in the mountains?" He signaled the bartender for a Macallan 18. "Must be nice. Simple life. No stress. No responsibilities." The bartender poured his scotch. 3 ounces in a crystal tumbler. $60 of whiskey he'd probably drink in 3 gulps. "It has its moments," I said. "I'm trying to convince Sarah to cut back on visiting you so much. She wastes whole weekends driving up there." He took a sip, savored it theatrically. "Plus, honestly, it's kind of embarrassing. My colleagues know her dad lives in the woods like some kind of hermit. Doesn't exactly fit the image we're building, you know?" "The image, of course." "Trevor!" Sarah appeared, slightly unsteady on her heels. She'd had more wine than I'd seen her drink before. "Come on. Greg wants to talk about the advisory board." Trevor straightened his tie. "Duty calls. Enjoy your water, Marcus. And hey, if you need anything, let me know. We've got connections at some shelters downtown. Clean places. They can help you get on your feet." He walked away, leaving his $60 scotch half-finished on the bar. The bartender caught my eye and rolled hers. Want me to spit in his next drink? Tempting. But no. I sat there another hour, invisible, watching Sarah navigate Trevor's world. She laughed at the right moments, made small talk with the right people, played the role of successful tech girlfriend perfectly. She'd learned young how to adapt, how to fit in. Her mother and I had always encouraged that. Maybe we'd encouraged it too much. Around 9 o'clock, Trevor's voice rose above the general noise. He was at the main table, phone pressed to his ear, face flushed. Not from alcohol, from anger. "What do you mean there's a problem?" "No, I can't talk about this now. I'm at a company event. Pause. Just handle it, Jordan. That's what I pay you for. He ended the call and drained someone else's wine glass. Sarah touched his arm, concerned, but he shook her off. 10 minutes later, his phone rang again. This time he stepped outside to take it. Through the window, I watched him pace on the sidewalk, gesturing wildly. When he came back in, his swagger had cracked. Just a little. He caught Gregory Hamilton's eye and made his way over, forcing a smile. "Everything okay?" Gregory asked, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. The question of a boss who'd sensed blood in the water. "Fine. Just fine. Minor hiccup with one of our vendors. Nothing that can't be handled." Gregory nodded, but his eyes had sharpened. He was thinking now, calculating. I knew that look. I'd worn it myself 1,000 times. The party began winding down around 10:30. People filtered toward the exits, collecting coats, calling Ubers. Sarah approached the bar, and for a moment, I thought she might apologize. Explain something. "Dad, Trevor's going to drive me home. You're okay getting back to your cabin?" "I'll manage. Listen, about earlier." She glanced toward Trevor, who was laughing too loud with a group by the door. He didn't mean anything by it. He's just protective of his image. This business world, it's cutthroat. You have to present a certain way. "So, you let him call me homeless?" He exaggerated. "He knows you have the cabin." "Sarah." I waited until she met my eyes. "I'm not upset about what he said about me. I'm upset that you stood there and let him." Her face hardened. What was I supposed to do? Cause a scene? Embarrass him in front of his colleagues and his boss? You could have told the truth. "The truth is complicated, Dad. Trevor's building something important. I'm part of that now. I can't have." She gestured at my flannel shirt. "I can't have my life up in the mountains interfering with our life down here. Our life. Not her life. Our life. With Trevor." "I see. Do you? Because sometimes I wonder if you understand what I'm trying to build with him. What we could have together." I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd raised, and saw a stranger. Or maybe I saw someone who'd always been there, and I'd been too close to notice. Someone who valued image over substance. Who chose comfort over character. "I understand perfectly," I said quietly. "You've made your choice." "Dad." "Sarah." Trevor's voice cut across the restaurant. "Come on, let's go. I've got an early call with investors tomorrow." She hesitated, caught between us for a moment. Then she chose, again. "I'll call you next week," she said, already turning away. I watched her leave with Trevor, his arm possessively around her waist, already talking about renovations to his downtown condo. She didn't look back. The bartender appeared with a fresh water. "For what it's worth, you seem like a good guy who deserves better." "Thanks. That Trevor guy, he's gonna crash and burn. Guys like that always do." I pulled out my phone and opened my secure email. Found Jennifer Kwan's message from this morning. Subject, Novatrack due diligence, red flags. I'd read it 3 times already, but I read it again now. Marcus, completed preliminary audit of Novatrack Solutions financials. Multiple discrepancies found. User numbers inflated by 47%. Ghost accounts, inactive users, counted as active. Revenue projections based on contracts not yet signed. RMAUN, 3M in expenses unaccounted for, personal purchases charged to company card. 3 key engineers have given notice, not disclosed to investors. CEO Trevor Nash has prior fraud investigation from 2019 charges dropped due to lack of evidence, but pattern suggests serial behavior. Recommend we decline to lead Series B and alert SEC to potential securities fraud. Due diligence meeting still scheduled for Tuesday 10 a.m. Will you attend or should I send David? Jennifer. I typed a quick response. I'll attend. Don't alert SEC yet. Let's see how Tuesday plays out. I finished my water, left a $50 bill for the bartender, and walked out into the December cold. My truck sat alone in the parking lot, a beat-up Ford F-150 that had seen better decades. I climbed in and just sat there for a while, watching the last partygoers leave, watching Trevor and Sarah drive away in his Tesla. My phone buzzed. Jennifer, responding to my email. You're not seriously considering investing after seeing these numbers? I typed back. I'm considering teaching someone a lesson about character. See you Tuesday. The drive back to my cabin took 2 hours through mountain darkness. I'd bought the place 20 years ago after selling my first software company for $30 million. Built it with my own hands, mostly. A refuge from the tech world's chaos. A place to think. To invest carefully. To live simply while building quietly. Summit Ventures had grown from that cabin. I'd funded it with profits from my second exit, then my third. Now we managed $400 million in assets, specializing in early-stage tech investments. I'd made 87 investments in the last 15 years. 63 had succeeded, 12 had failed. The rest were still pending. I was good at my job because I understood something fundamental. You don't invest in ideas. You invest in people. And character matters more than charisma. Trevor Nash had plenty of charisma. Zero character. And my daughter had chosen him anyway. I spent the weekend preparing, called Jennifer and my attorney, David Chen, reviewed every document, every email, every financial statement. By Monday evening, I had a complete picture of Trevor's fraud. It was elegant, in its way, not sophisticated, but bold. He'd built Novatrack on a foundation of lies, each one supporting the next, creating a structure that looked impressive from the outside. 15 million users, explosive growth, revolutionary technology. But look closer and you saw the cracks, the fake accounts, the manipulated metrics, the missing money, the abandoned staff. Trevor had built a house of cards and convinced everyone it was a fortress, including my daughter. Tuesday morning broke cold and clear. I dressed carefully this time. Tom Ford suit, charcoal gray, Hermes tie, Church's Oxfords polished to mirrors. I looked like what I was. A man who controlled hundreds of millions in capital and didn't need to prove it with loud clothes or louder words. Jennifer met me in the lobby of Columbia Tower, our downtown Seattle office. She handed me a leather portfolio. Everything's in here. Financial discrepancies, user metrics analysis, employment records, Trevor's background check. It's damning, Marcus. Good. Are you really going to do this in front of his entire board? He humiliated me in public, taught my daughter that image matters more than integrity. Yes, I'm going to do this in front of his entire board. And Sarah? That was the question, wasn't it? Sarah would be there. Trevor had bragged about it on his LinkedIn, tagging her. My amazing girlfriend, Sarah, supporting me at our biggest funding meeting yet. Sarah needs to learn the same lesson, I said. Maybe harder. We rode the elevator to the 42nd floor. Novatrack had leased half the floor 6 months ago, another sign of Trevor's inflated confidence. Spending money he didn't have yet on office space they didn't need yet. The conference room was floor-to-ceiling glass, with views of Elliott Bay. Trevor sat at the head of the table, Sarah beside him, his hand covering hers. Possessive. When he saw Jennifer and me enter, his face went through several expressions in quick succession. Confusion, recognition, dawning horror. Mr. Chen. Gregory Hamilton stood, extending his hand. Summit Ventures, correct? We're honored to have you here personally. I didn't realize you took such a hands-on approach. Only with investments that interest me, I said, shaking his hand. And Novatrack definitely interests me. Trevor had gone pale. He kept looking between me and Jennifer, his mind clearly racing, trying to understand. The homeless uncle, in a $3,000 suit, from Summit Ventures. Sarah stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Dad? Sarah. I smiled at her. Didn't know I'd be here? Your Summit Ventures? Founding partner. Managing director. I'd give you my card, but Trevor already has one. I gave it to him when he first pitched me 8 months ago. Trevor's hand slid off Sarah's. He pulled out his phone, frantically scrolling, probably to his emails, searching for that first pitch meeting, finding the signature I'd used, M. Chen, Summit Ventures. I don't understand, Sarah said quietly. I know. That's part of the problem. Gregory Hamilton was watching this exchange with hawk eyes. He gestured to the table. Shall we sit? Get started? We arranged ourselves. Trevor tried to regain control, standing to begin his prepared pitch, but I raised a hand. "Before we begin, Trevor, I have a question about your announcement Friday night." His jaw tightened. "What announcement?" "At Morton's. You told your entire staff and your CEO that Summit Ventures had committed $15 million in Series B funding, that we'd already closed the deal." Silence. Gregory Hamilton's expression hardened. Trevor swallowed. I was being optimistic, expressing confidence in our relationship. Interesting word choice. Optimistic. I opened my portfolio. "Jennifer, would you walk everyone through our preliminary findings?" For the next 30 minutes, Jennifer dismantled NovaTrack piece by piece. The inflated user numbers, the ghost accounts, the falsified revenue projections, the missing money. She projected documents on the screen. Bank statements, user logs, employment records. Trevor tried to interrupt. "Those numbers are taken out of context. We can explain." "Please don't." David Chen, my attorney, spoke for the first time. "Everything you say here can and will be provided to the SEC as part of our formal complaint." Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. "SEC? Dad, what's happening?" "Your boyfriend is being exposed as a fraud," I said calmly. "Something that would have happened eventually, but I decided to accelerate the timeline." "You're doing this because of Friday night," Trevor said suddenly. His voice rose, defensive. "Because I called you homeless. You're sabotaging my company over a joke." "A joke?" I met his eyes. "Is that what we're calling it? Not a calculated humiliation designed to diminish me in front of your colleagues? Not a pattern of behavior that shows exactly who you are? You don't know anything about me. I know you borrowed $300,000 from your last girlfriend and never paid it back. I know you left your previous startup in shambles, owing vendors and employees. I know you've built a career on charm and deception." I stood, gathering my portfolio. "And I know my daughter deserves better." Sarah pushed back from the table, tears streaming down her face. "Dad, please, you can't do this." "I'm not doing anything, honey. Trevor did this to himself. I'm just making sure everyone sees it clearly. You're destroying his life. I'm revealing the truth. There's a difference." Gregory Hamilton had been silent through all this, reading through Jennifer's documentation. Now he stood as well. "Trevor, you're fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. You have 1 hour to collect personal items, supervised. Any company property, any files, any data, all stays here." "Greg, wait. I should have listened to the due diligence warnings." "I didn't because you're charming and confident and I wanted to believe we had the next unicorn." Gregory's voice was ice. "But Mr. Chen is right. Character matters. And you have none." 2 security guards appeared at the door. Trevor looked around the table, desperate, finding no allies. His eyes landed on Sarah. "Babe, tell them I was trying to help us. Build something for us." Sarah sat frozen, mascara running, caught between her father and her boyfriend. "Sarah," I said gently, "what do you see when you look at him right now?" She looked at Trevor, really looked at him, saw the desperation, the manipulation, the way he was trying to use her as a shield. Something crumbled in her expression. "I see someone who lied to me," she whispered, "about everything." "Sarah," Trevor's voice cracked, "you can't believe him over me. After everything we've built together, you built it on lies." She stood, shakily. "All of it. The company. Us. Everything." The security guards moved in. Trevor lunged toward me, but they caught him. "This is your fault," he screamed at me. "You bitter old man. You couldn't stand seeing your daughter with someone successful, someone with a future." "I couldn't stand seeing my daughter with a fraud," I corrected. "There's a difference. One you'll have time to consider while the SEC investigates." They led him away, still shouting threats and accusations. His voice echoed down the hallway until an elevator door cut it off. The conference room was silent, except for Sarah's quiet crying. Gregory Hamilton extended his hand to me. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention before we got in deeper. I assume Summit won't be investing, not in NovaTrack. But if you clean house and bring in competent leadership, maybe in Hamilton Technologies directly. You have good instincts, Greg. Just need to trust them more." He nodded and left, taking Jennifer and David with him. Strategic exits to give us privacy. Sarah and I sat across from each other at the enormous conference table. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked finally. "About Summit Ventures, about your work. Would you have believed me? When's the last time you asked about my life, Sarah?" She flinched. "You live in a cabin in the mountains, you wear flannel, you drive a truck that's older than I am. So you assumed I was poor, unsuccessful, an embarrassment." "I didn't," she stopped. "Yes, I did. I chose that life after your mother died. Built the cabin with my own hands because I needed something real. Something that wasn't about money or image or impressing people." I leaned forward, but I never stopped working, never stopped investing. I just did it quietly. Why? Because I wanted you to choose people for who they were, not what they could give you. I wanted you to develop your own values, your own judgment. I paused. But somewhere along the way, you learned the opposite lesson. You learned to value image over substance, success over integrity. That's not fair, isn't it? When Trevor called me homeless, you stood silent. You chose his reputation over my dignity. You chose what people thought over what was true. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. I was ashamed. Of you, of where you live, of how you dress. She covered her face with her hands. "Oh, God, I'm a terrible person." "No, you're a person who made terrible choices. There's a difference." I reached across the table and pulled her hands down gently, made her look at me. "Sarah, I came to that party knowing exactly what Trevor was. I'd already read the due diligence reports. I already knew he was a fraud. I came because you invited me, and because I wanted to give him one chance to show me I was wrong. And he called you homeless instead." He revealed his character. "And you revealed yours. And now we both have to live with that. I'm so sorry, Dad." "I know, but sorry isn't enough. You have to decide who you want to be. Someone who judges people by their clothes and their cars? Or someone who looks deeper?" She was quiet for a long time. Outside the windows, Seattle sprawled beneath us, gray and wet and beautiful. "I don't know how to come back from this," she said finally. "How do I fix it?" "You start by being honest. With yourself and with me. Why did you really stay with Trevor? Even when things felt wrong? Because I wanted to believe I could have that life. The penthouse, the parties, the image." She laughed bitterly. "I spent $200 getting my hair done for Friday's party. $200 I don't have, on a credit card I'm already maxed out on, because I wanted to look like I belonged in Trevor's world." "And did you belong?" "No. I felt like a fraud the entire time, just a better dressed one." I stood and walked to the windows. 42 floors below, people moved through their lives, making choices, building futures, some on solid foundations, others on sand. "Come work for me," I said. "What?" "Summit Ventures. I need an analyst, someone hungry, someone who's learned hard lessons about character and judgment." I turned to face her. "Someone who's ready to do the real work of becoming a person of substance." "Dad, I don't know anything about venture capital." "You know enough. And more importantly, you're about to know yourself better. That's where it starts." I smiled. "Plus, you can help me find the next Nova track before they implode. Spot the red flags I might miss." "You didn't miss any flags with Trevor." "True. But I'm getting older. I could use a second set of eyes, especially ones that have seen what happens when you choose image over integrity." She stood and moved to the window beside me. We stood there together, father and daughter, looking out at the city. "I can't believe you let me embarrass you like that. At Morton's. You knew who you were, what you'd built, and you just sat there and took it." I sat there and watched. There's a difference. I watched you choose a fraud over your father. I watched Trevor reveal himself. I gathered information. I put my hand on her shoulder. Sometimes the best revenge isn't immediate. It's strategic. She laughed. A wet, broken sound. Astral Vengeance. "What?" "That's what Mom used to call it. When you'd let someone think they'd won, then turn it around on them later. She said you moved like the stars slow. patient, inevitable. I'd forgotten that. My throat tightened. Your mother understood me better than anyone. I want to understand you too. For real this time. We stood there until the winter sun broke through the clouds, casting long shadows across the conference table. Below us, somewhere in this city, Trevor was packing his desk, facing the consequences of his choices, learning that character matters. Sarah pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. I watched her delete Trevor's contact information, then her Instagram, then her Facebook, methodically erasing the false life she'd tried to build. "What now?" she asked. "Now we go to lunch. Somewhere nice. You tell me everything you learned working with Trevor, and I tell you stories about your mother and the early days of Summit. Then we start building something real. Dad? Yeah? I love you. And I'm sorry I forgot what that's supposed to mean." I pulled her into a hug. This daughter I'd raised and lost and found again. She smelled like expensive perfume and regret, and I held her until she stopped shaking. "I never forgot," I said quietly. "That's why I came to the party. That's why I'm here now. Real love means letting people fall, but it also means being there to help them stand back up." We left the conference room together. In the elevator, Sarah caught sight of us in the mirrored walls, a man in a Tom Ford suit and a woman with running mascara, and she laughed. "We're a mess. We're honest. That's a start." 6 months later, Sarah sat across from me in our office now reviewing a pitch deck for a new startup. She'd grown into her role at Summit, learned to spot the red flags, developed the instinct that separates good investors from great ones. She still drove up to the cabin most weekends, but now she came because she wanted to, not because she had to. Trevor Nash had pleaded guilty to securities fraud. 18 months in minimum security, restitution to investors, 5 years probation. Sarah had watched the sentencing from the gallery, not for revenge, for closure. Gregory Hamilton had reached out last month. Hamilton Technologies wanted to partner with Summit on a new venture. Trust, once lost, slowly being rebuilt. And me? I still lived in my cabin, still wore flannel on weekends, still drove that beat-up F-150, because character isn't what you wear. It's what you do when no one's watching, how you treat people who can't help you, what you build when image doesn't matter. Sarah looked up from the pitch deck. Red flags everywhere. Inflated numbers, missing documentation, CEO with no track record. Pass? Pass. I smiled. She'd learned. Not just about business, but about people, about herself. Sometimes the best lessons are the hardest ones. Sometimes you have to watch someone you love make terrible choices before they learn to make better ones. Sometimes revenge isn't about punishment. It's about revelation. Trevor had called me an unemployed loser, tried to make me invisible. Instead, he'd forced my daughter to finally see me clearly, and in seeing me, she'd started seeing herself. Astral vengeance, indeed. Slow, patient, inevitable, and in the end, far more devastating than anything immediate could ever be.